listening to my mom, Georgia Edson, on iCannabisRadio.com.
Hi, it's Monday night, and it is the 18th of March, 2013, and you're listening to iCannabis Radio, and I am Georgia, and I'm here in the studio with some pretty special people because we have a pretty special show, and I'm starting to get, I've been really good for the past couple of days, and I'm starting to get choked up a little bit, but we're in the studio with, of course, it's the third Monday of the month, so that means Greg is in the studio with our cannabis history lesson tonight. And of course, our producer, Chris. And sitting in just for the first couple minutes is a very special person, my son, Gavin. Say hi, Gav.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
Good. So the reason why Gavin's in the studio tonight is because we are dedicating this show to our wonderful friend, Niles Puckett. Niles has lived in Colorado for the past few years and is an amazing, wonderful man. And he lost his long battle on Saturday evening at about 5 o'clock. And we will all miss him so desperately and have been touched tremendously by Niles' kind heart and funny sense of humor and just wonderful, wonderful personality. And Gavin, you wanted to say a couple words to Niles' family about how you feel about Niles. What did you want to say?
Well, I think he was a nice person, and I'm kind of sad of him passing away, but I think that he was at that time, and he lived a great life.
Thank you so much. I think you're right, and you're very wise. You got to see Niles before he died. You went and saw him Wednesday night in the hospital.
Yeah.
What did you think about that? That was good that you got to say goodbye, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like that.
That's good. That's good. Niles used to bring you presents and pencils and little things. He'd bring us food on Monday nights. He'd cook some fabulous meal, or if he wasn't feeling up for cooking, he would bring us some food he tended to bring you stuff too. So anyway, thanks for being on, buddy. Anything else you want to say?
Well, yeah.
Okay, say it right in there, right into the microphone. There you go.
Okay. I'm sorry for the family, and that's all.
That'll do it.
That'll do.
And it's time for you to go to bed, huh?
No.
No, not time for you to go to bed?
No.
All right, fair enough. Not time for you to go to bed, but time for you to say see you later and go hang out with the people who are here to celebrate Niles' life. How's that sound? Perfect. Mm-hmm. Excellent. Well, thanks, buddy. I appreciate it.
Does Dad have to take me home right now?
No, he doesn't have to take you home right now, but I kind of have to do the show right now.
Okay.
As much as I would love to just chat with you.
Bye.
Bye. Love you. Thank you.
You too.
Who's interviewing home there?
So Niles had just a wonderful sense about him. I think one of the things, I was trying to think about when I met Niles, and I know kind of how long ago it was, but I don't remember the specific time, like the day. I don't have some memory of, at this moment, that was the first experience I had with Niles. I kind of don't remember not having Niles around. I don't remember not having someone who would text me a picture of his dinner, or come visit, or always say the right thing. One of the things that I appreciated so much about Niles, in addition to his dedicated activism and his desire to really see medical marijuana patients get their medicine and the end of the drug war, but I appreciated on a humanistic level that Niles cared so deeply about people and so deeply about individuals. And I think that's why so many people cared about him, is because he made us all feel like the attention he was placing on us was so personal. Was so personal, and that every conversation that we had was important. And that's a special trait that people have, to make you feel like you are special, and Niles had a great way of doing that, and it's probably because he was so special. is so special. He will live on with us for sure. Greg, now you said you had a year and a half ago or so, maybe not even that long, maybe a year ago.
Yeah, about a year ago, Niles was the featured patient of the month in Cush magazine, and they did an interview with him. And there's a photo of him online too. That would be under our Niles folder there.
Yeah, it's a great picture. That was in Cush. So handsome, such a handsome man.
Here are some of the things that he responded to the questions. It was asked, why did you start using medical cannabis? What symptoms respond the best to cannabis use? I really started considering cannabis medicine in 2008 when I could not eat and had what they term wasting syndrome. Such horrible terminology in the disease world. My doctor at the time prescribed me cryptoheptadine, which
what is that?
Was a living hell. It made me voraciously hungry yet unable to eat. That's where marijuana came in. It was the only thing that made me able to eat again. Gosh, I have no idea what that is, but that was one of the, close to 36 medications, or I don't know, however many medications he was taking. It said, without a daily regimen of around 20 pills a day, my doctors tell me I will die. Cannabis therapy coupled with traditional medicine seemed to be working well.
And he was using oil and he definitely had a good cannabis regimen and spoke very freely about it. And, he has a very loving and supporting family who was here supporting him. He lived with his sister, and his mom actually moved out from the South to come and live here and kind of help and make sure that Niles was getting the care and the treatment that he needed, as well as just being able to. Niles is a super social guy. I mean, again, one of the reasons why he had so many friends is because even when he was feeling crappy, he would rather feel crappy and be out and about than feeling crappy and be at home. I mean, he's a social creature, that is for sure. And for someone like me who's not particularly social, I mean, it was so nice to know if I went somewhere that Niles was going to be there, and I could kind of hang out with him and hide out with him a little bit. But yeah, he in the short time he lived here, he really became a very strong member of the cannabis community here, and his family and his sister Ginger and his mom Tara as well have become very strong members of the community. He epitomized what people voted for, not just in Colorado but across the country. I mean, so many people think of the most extreme illnesses that cannabis is helpful for, and Niles talks about in that article about having wasting syndrome. And for those of you that aren't real familiar, I mean, essentially, your body, I mean, you aren't eating and you're literally wasting away, and it is. He's right. It's a horrible name, but it's unfortunately very, very accurate. And one of the things that we know that cannabis does, and it's one of the things that people joke about the most, is it stimulates appetite. And while people laugh about the munchies, if you have an illness or if you're taking medication that makes eating incredibly unpleasant or impossible, it's literally life-saving to be able to counteract that with an herb that actually stimulates your appetite, allows you to ingest food and get the nutrients that you need, because you can't heal or get better or even fight off the disease if you can't get nutrients into your body. And so cannabis plays that incredibly important role of allowing your body to do what it does naturally and start to heal itself and start to ward off some of the terrible illnesses. When you have an immune disorder, and your body really struggles with being able to fight off even the most common of germs anyway. Add not eating to that and not getting nutrients to that, and it makes it so much worse. So Niles really epitomized what people, the compassionate voter, not necessarily the voter who had a dog in the fight, but had the compassion. The compassion they felt were for patients like Niles, who really, whether he enjoyed it recreationally or not, he definitely benefited and recognized the benefit of the medicinal aspect of cannabis. So yeah, he. It's so hard because here we are on Monday morning or Monday evening, and I've been thinking about this all day, that when Niles came a few weeks ago and brought the gumbo that we all ate, and he brought plenty so everyone could have it, and I've been thinking about how that was the last meal that I shared with him, and how you get used to these habits that we formed, and my habit has been spending every Monday night with Niles, and
every Monday night he would bring Georgia down some food.
Every Monday night he would, and even if we only saw each other for a little bit, it was it was so wonderful and touching, and it kind of made my week. And then he would text me once or twice during the week about something, and he was that kind of friend who just just those little interactions were so heartfelt and so thoughtful and so kind, and man, the dude was funny, and some of the shit he would say was so outrageously inappropriate, and so
yes.
And that was the other part that was my favorite. It was all the things that were going on in everybody's head, that we were all thinking. Niles had the guts to say it. I mean, he would, and sometimes he would whisper it, and sometimes he would just outright call it what it was, and for all of that Niles is so appreciated. We're going to take a quick break, which is good because I'm not sure that I can. I need to take a few breaths. But we are brought to you tonight by Cuffle Collimore and Company. Cuffle Collimore and Company, as you guys know, is my dad's company, and is the only commercial now that we don't have a read for. But if you are a medical marijuana business, you can get insurance for your company through Cuffle Collimore and Company. He can provide not only liability insurance, slip and fall, and property insurance, but he can also provide crop insurance as well. Make sure you give him an email. That's Bob Collimore. Email bob@iwic.net, and he can send you a quote for any or all, whether you want insurance for your store or whether you want insurance for your grow. Cuffle Collimore can help you out. Now, part of your insurance policy can include if a product that your customer used made them ill, that can be covered as well. So again, email bob@iwic.net. You're listening to iCannabis Radio, and we'll be right back.
Are you a medical marijuana patient or interested in finding out how to become one? Contact Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern. Conveniently located on Hamden and Tamarack in the Whole Foods parking lot behind Proof of the Pudding, Mile High Wellness offers a wide variety of edibles, hashes, and some of Colorado's top strains. Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern. 3525 South Tamarack, Suite 110, on the corner of Hamden and Tamarack. 720-382-8516. Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern.
Whether you are a commercial grower or cultivate as a hobby, No Dough Urban Garden Supply is Denver's first stop for your hydroponic grow needs. With a wide range of products including House and Garden, Botanicare, and Fox Farm, their knowledgeable staff can get you started on your first garden or help you with your well-established business. No Dough Urban Garden Supply is located in downtown Denver at 1330 27th Street, 4 blocks north of Coors Field near MMD of Colorado. They are open 6 days a week from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Call 303-296-3424 or visit them on the web at www.nodoughurbangardensupply.com.
I'm Gary Johnson, and you're listening to iCannabis Radio, and I want to say,
Talk it up, Colorado. I want to say, talk it up, Colorado. We're back. You're listening to iCannabis Radio. I'm Georgia, and I'm in the studio with Greg and with Chris. If there's anyone in the green room listening that wants to come in and say a few things about Niles, please feel free to do so at any point during the show. But we are going to switch gears just a little bit in honor, again, of Niles Puckett, who we lost on Saturday. We are going to be taking a different turn of our history lesson. We've got Wayward Bill Shangalis is here, and he has been joining the celebration of Niles's life. And did you want to say a couple words?
A couple words.
Ha ha ha! That's a funny joke. Never heard that one before, Mr. Original.
And how are you this evening?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Yeah.
Surviving the extra long weekend. It seems like for Denver Blood Green for 3 days.
Yes. Yes. The Pretend Irish did a good job this weekend.
Yes, they did. And Club 64 got together on Saturday night. And we had green cannabis beer. I mean, it was.
How did that taste?
It was good. It was they must have infused it with oil or something, and dye at the same time, because they make those plungers for the dye, to make the beer green. So I think they, at the same time, they must have put some oil in there too. So it wasn't just named cannabis beer. It really was cannabis beer. It wasn't a hemp beer. It was definitely you could feel the cannabis.
Was there alcohol in it too?
Yes, there was.
Oh my! Oh.
Alcohol delivery device.
And it was green.
Wow, there's so many things about that. So many things about that. Well, good.
So Niles, yeah. I can't remember when I met Niles either. I know his sister Ginger very well, and I know Ginger from the days of medical marijuana assistance program of the Rockies, and then later of America, because of her work with them, and that's where I think I probably might have met Niles. Niles was a live wire. That's no ands, ifs, or buts about it. You look at any of the pictures I've ever taken of him, he is doing something. Even in the pictures I'm with him in, he's doing something. Something out of the ordinary. He was extraordinary, out of the ordinary.
Yes. Yes.
He just, I don't know, who wired him, but they did a good job, because he was a lot of fun.
You're absolutely right. He was a lot of fun. Absolutely. And loved to have fun. I mean, part of that great thing was his incredible social skills. I mean, he just social guy and can talk to anybody about anything, incredibly intelligent. Law school grad. He was an aide to Strom Thurmond. He was just. He had this amazing life, these 32 years that he put so much into.
That's so true, and that such a short span that he got that much accomplished in his lifetime. That speaks unto itself and unto Niles.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you having me in, and hopefully somebody else out there in the green room will come in and have a few words here.
Absolutely.
Mr. Valdez.
Absolutely. Okay. So, Greg, we have a special cannabis history lesson today.
Bye, George. Bye, Greg.
Goodbye, Bill. Yes, we do. We are going to speak about the activism of the AIDS community in, bringing medical marijuana to the forefront in the United States from the early 1990s, maybe even before, onwards to now. If it had not been for the AIDS activists who realized that this was a very important medication in the sense that people were eating and kind of putting the AIDS wasting syndrome at bay, they took it to the forefront and did what they did in so many different ways to bring that issue to the forefront and change laws and make it more accessible for people to receive cannabis.
Yeah, again, like we talked about a little bit earlier, the activism that in the AIDS community really pushed that compassionate voter to say, wow, this is something that really works for really sick people when nothing else is working.
Right. I'm fairly certain the Colorado AIDS Project endorsed Amendment 20, as did other AIDS groups, other medical groups, such as nurses. I think a lot of nurses saw what it did for people, knew about it firsthand with cancer and AIDS patients. And thank goodness the voters passed a law that allows people to receive medical cannabis now pretty darn quickly in the state of Colorado after a patient's diagnosis and recommendation. Otherwise, before, you just had to know somebody or know about clubs that were giving it out, or maybe a nurse would be able to provide it, on the sly. This made it above board and legal, and we should be thankful that we live in such a state as Colorado where that's possible.
Absolutely, absolutely. So our friend Miguel just came into the studio, who also worked with MMPA and knew Niles' sister Ginger, knows Niles' sister Ginger, and knows Niles. And do you have a couple words you wanted to say about our friend?
Indeed. And how are you two doing today?
Super duper, and you?
Fantastic, as if I didn't know the answer already when
Right?
we met outside beforehand.
But you have to ask that on the air, too, so people think that we just saw each other. We didn't rehearse this before,
Exactly. I need to come across as congenial.
Right.
Yeah, as you had just alluded to, Georgia, I had gotten to know Niles and Ginger and their mother, Tara, through the working at MMAPA. And, excuse me, I had gotten to know Ginger very closely, and then Niles got brought into the picture a little bit later on in the future. And as you guys alluded to earlier on, one thing I always remembered about Niles is his quick wit. I mean, that dude was sharp-tongued that. And he would say things, again, that would just leave you aghast and just saying...
And you kind of wish you would have said it.
It was his delivery. The
Yes.
way he could just nail it. Mm-hmm. And he would throw in that sass as if he was holding a cup like this, say what he's got to say, and turn around.
Yep.
Turn and leave you in the cold of the Arctic with his words.
Yep.
And I've had times where I've been in witness of that. I even received a couple of those a couple of times too. And, hearing about the friendship that you guys had with Niles, you guys had a lot more time to spend with him, got a lot closer with him than I did. And it was one of those things that, for me as a gay guy, as a gay man, one of the big.
When did you become gay? Just a couple minutes ago?
Just for the sake of this story.
Okay, good.
As soon as I walk out the door, fully heterosexual once again, much to my mother's happiness.
Just for the sake of the story.
But with that said, it was one of those things where, while I had spoken to many people who were HIV positive or had been who were in full-blown AIDS, I hadn't gotten the chance to get that one-on-one personal interaction with them, and repeatedly over and over, and then have that feeling of today's a good day, today is not a good day.
Yep.
And for me, that was a really troublesome thing for me personally to handle, and that my emotions, and as selfish as this may sound, it was one of those things that brought the AIDS discussion straight home. And as a gay guy, we try, for us that were too young to have experienced the AIDS epidemic of the 80s and 90s, that brought it way too close to home. We're trying to go ahead and be out in the clubs. We're trying to go ahead and enjoy this vodka or whatever, what have you, whatever the gays drink these days. That was difficult for me to go ahead and see. Was seeing somebody who was part of my community start to waste away.
Yeah.
But again, as you were alluding to earlier and discussing earlier on, Greg, with the Compassionate Care Act in '96, it is what we wanted to see be done with cannabis here in Colorado. It it reminds me a lot of what a lot of people here in the community want to do with cannabis. Do you know Matt from, I believe, is Good Chemistry? You know his story with his fathers.
Yeah.
It was why he got involved in cannabis.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
And we have a bunch of people who are like that, and blessed that they're around.
You know, I lived in San Francisco when they passed medical marijuana, and so I mean, completely different field, because obviously there's a fairly strong gay community in San Francisco, and so you know the support was really there, and this was the late '90s, and so you know there's still a reeling of the AIDS epidemic, and you know while it wasn't like the 80s, it was still people were really experiencing a lot of loss, and so there were a lot of compassionate voters and people who did experience what you've been lucky enough not to experience, which is watching people, you know, slowly die. I mean, now people with HIV and full-blown AIDS live significantly different lives than they did 15, 20 years ago.
And Dina Martinez
is a great example. Absolutely.
Oh, an amazing woman.
And she hasn't been on our show for a while. We need to have her back.
Oh, I hadn't seen her for a hot minute or so.
Yeah.
But she's a blast, and I love her dearly.
She is wonderful.
Yeah. There was a line of thought that I had just a moment ago, talking about what you were just mentioning right there. You know, my friend had mentioned that he was old enough to remember the full-blown AIDS epidemic that happened. And he was telling me, you know, Fire Island was starting to become completely devoid of guys. And it just the property values started to drop, and you actually saw the demographics shift to like 70% women because of how bad AIDS rocked that community.
Wow.
So, you know, one thing I do remember was it was at one of the cannabis events, and I want to say it was at the High Times event, where the stress of what was going on within the family hit a fever pitch. And seeing that, I don't want to say I understand, because that would be disingenuous. I don't understand another person's emotions. But I got to witness that stress would become full-blown for the Puckett family.
Yeah.
And when speaking with Niles' sister and seeing Mrs. Puckett go and all of them deal with everything in their own way. I don't want to get into too much into specifics, but with that said, you just feel the stress within the family. You can feel the snapping happen, the desire for people to be able to not be caregivers because they themselves are exhausted.
Right.
And at the same time, the dedication that they're showing one another as family members.
They're a fantastic family. And you know, I mean, I firmly believe, you know, no matter what you believe in terms of whether you believe in some sort of higher power or whether you believe in nothing, I believe that you are only given what you can deal with, and you're surprised by how much you can handle. And I think that all three of them were all surprised with how much they could handle and the grace in which they did so. And they all played their roles. And, you know, Niles did a lot of caretaking as well. I mean, here in his own kind of way, while he was feeling sick, he still had a responsibility to his mom and to his sister and to his dad and to his friends. I mean, he still felt that responsibility. And, you know, families go through really tough times and they handle it in lots of different ways, but this family handled it all with grace.
Well said. And I remember Niles volunteering and having that spirit to go ahead and offer his time and his intelligence and his skills to MMAPA when we were in that organization, just because he couldn't just sit back and not do anything.
Yeah.
That was just not in his nature.
Absolutely.
So he was a fighter all the way through and through.
Well, thank you so much, my dear friend. I appreciate you coming on and speaking of our friend and how much we'll miss him. Thank you.
My pleasure.
All right.
Great. Adios.
Thank you, Miguel. That's wonderful. So you know, the history lesson that we're talking about today is sort of how the the AIDS activism and HIV education and those kinds of things all kind of helped move the medical marijuana community or medical marijuana initiatives forward. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that right after we take this breaky break. Does that sound good, Chris? You're listening to iCannabis Radio. My name's Georgia, and we'll be back before you know it. High up in the Rockies is beautiful Frisco, Colorado. Medical Marijuana of the Rockies is a medical marijuana center with compassion for Colorado's medical patients. Looking for great meds grown organically in soil? You've come to the right place. Medical Marijuana of the Rockies is just off I-70 at exit 203. Check them out at the web at www.mmrockies.com. Their ever-changing strain and clone selection is updated on the website daily. When making a trip to the mountains, no matter the season, stop by Medical Marijuana of the Rockies. Make sure you say you heard about them on iCannabis Radio. You can call 970-668-MEDS to get more information. Medical Marijuana of the Rockies, your mountain source for meds.
The law offices of Edson, Maton, and Matz provide criminal defense, medical marijuana defense, and advice about setting up and running medical marijuana centers, optional premises cultivation operations, and infused product manufacturing businesses throughout Colorado. With offices in Denver and Aspen, we can offer assistance throughout the entire state of Colorado. Give us a call at 303-831-8188. That's 303-831-8188. Or visit us online at warrenedson.com.
Hi, you're listening to my mom, Georgia Edson, on iCannabisradio.com.
Hi, welcome back. I'm Georgia. Thanks for listening. We are dedicating our show this evening to our friend Niles Puckett, who passed away on Saturday. Wherever Niles is, I feel like he's having a good time. And so are whoever might be with him.
He's saying, oh, yeah, say some more good things about me. Bring it on, sister.
Right. And we are with Greg, who does our monthly cannabis history lesson. And tonight we're talking a little bit about AIDS activism and the movements and how they interact.
I really do want to, give my condolences to the family and say I wish you through these hard times. And there's been a lot of stress and struggle through this whole thing, and hopefully everyone came together and learned and grew, and we do what we do as people.
That's right.
Because we love each other and try to express some kindness during this lifetime. We were talking a little bit about the Cush interview that Niles gave, and I just wanted to say one more thing that is within this interview. He was asked, what inspires you to keep fighting the fight? And one of the things he said was, also, I fight for the people that fought the fight when there was little help and so little knowledge.
Yeah.
I fight for my friends in Kentucky whose house, garage, and cars were burned when a local nurse told his employer. There are so many reasons to wage war against this disease and not the people who unfortunately have it.
Profound.
Yes, and there was a lot of, and still is a lot of hatred of gay people, and a lot to overcome, and so many, within the past even 5 years, so many tides have changed, and so much public opinion has changed regarding this. There were so many people involved in the AIDS community, again, who helped put forth the notion of medical marijuana to the public, because it really did help them. It was all anecdotal. Finally, when there were people like Dr. Abrams at San Francisco General who started studying AIDS in controlled placebo and research groups and medical marijuana, did find that it allowed people to eat. It did relieve pain. So this wasn't just people looking to get high. And that was a big public perception at the time in the 80s, 90s. And it was in the 90s that it really came to the forefront. Got to remember that medical marijuana, as far as somebody receiving medicine from the government, marijuana grown at the University of Mississippi, didn't really happen until about 1976, when a man, Robert Randall, won the right through the courts to use marijuana medicinally for his glaucoma. and he fought tirelessly to get other people involved, along with his wife, Alice O'Leary. Probably less than 50 people ever received medical marijuana from the federal government. Some still receive it. But again, he fought to get AIDS patients involved because he knew it did help them. And the thing is, Robert Randall passed away from AIDS-related complications himself. So he originally got it for glaucoma, but he was using it to treat his AIDS symptoms, wasting syndrome, etc. He assisted so many people in the early 1990s when the AIDS epidemic was still in full bloom to petition the government for marijuana that the federal government decided to end the program. We're not going to give medical marijuana to anyone anymore except for the people who are grandfathered. They were very nice. They grandfathered, maybe 15 people. One couple was Kenny and Barbara Jenks. Kenny Jenks was a hemophiliac. Mm-hmm. He received a blood transfusion, and there was AIDS-tainted blood at that time still making its rounds in blood banks, and he passed the infection on to his wife. They were both patients who received it, but only after they were arrested in Florida. Again, this is what people had to face. They were growing some plants, something like that, or had some marijuana, and they were arrested and faced, prison.
Severe punishment, that's right.
Sure. Well, the judge was presented with such a case in favor of them receiving medical marijuana. There was no medical necessity defense in Florida at the time, so he had to convict them. But the criminal defense attorney, who was the Jenks' attorney, said it was the most beautiful and compassionate sentence he'd ever seen. They were sentenced to 500 hours of community work, and all that had to entail was that they care for themselves.
Wow.
But still, they were irate that they were convicted at all and fought to get it overturned, and it eventually was overturned. So Kenny and Barbara Jenks did receive or have their convictions cleared, I believe, and they did receive medical marijuana from the government before Barbara died first, and then Kenny later died as well. In the early 1990s, you had Dennis Perone, a very famous activist, and we have a few pictures of him, Chris, in San Francisco. It was the AIDS epidemic again. Now, Dennis Perone was a noted counterculture figure as well as a marijuana dealer. But he was also other things as well. He was a restaurant owner. Mm-hmm. He was a friend of Harvey Milk, the gay rights activist and San Francisco supervisor, who was played by Sean Penn in the movie Milk. He would throw benefits at his restaurant for Harvey Milk. Dennis Perone is actually portrayed kind of briefly in the movie Milk itself.
That's a great picture that Chris just put up.
Well, there was a bust. There was a few ounces that he had, and his lover was dying of AIDS. Just terrible condition. And a week before he died, he took the stand to say that the marijuana was his. And the judge said, "I never want to see anything like this brought in my court again," and dismissed charges against Dennis Perone. Well, after he died, Dennis Perone started a petition drive in San Francisco to get Proposition P on the ballot. And that's what it became known as. And it was a compassionate use for medical marijuana initiative in the city of San Francisco, and it passed overwhelmingly, about 80% of the vote. People voted for Proposition P. It led to buyers clubs. Dennis Perone selling as he did in the past, but this time to legitimate patients throughout the city for medical marijuana. One of the people who assisted in the history of medical marijuana, sorry I don't have a picture of her here, I just realized, was Brownie Mary Rathman. Her name is Brownie Mary. She'd been arrested for pot in the past and managed to get off. And she specifically assisted AIDS patients. She went to San Francisco General, delivered AIDS patients medical marijuana brownies. She became a noted figure in medical marijuana, and she actually led. It was her inspiration that led there to be research about medical marijuana, because. Let's see. I'm just trying to look for a quote. Well, it doesn't matter. She was arrested in '92. She was released. Donald Abrams, who was a friend of hers, went ahead and was inspired by what she was doing to seek to get medical marijuana tested on people, and did, and found out again that it helps as far as pain goes and as far as wasting, and that it can be used safely. That was the other thing. It can be used safely with not any noted hazards by people with AIDS and AIDS wasting syndrome.
And with the other medications that they were, with the traditional medications that they were taking.
Oh, exactly. And it helped alleviate some of the symptoms of that. So,
because, I mean, many people are prescribed Marinol.
Right.
And so, this is obviously a much smarter, safer, less expensive way rather than taking a synthetic. Why not do it naturally?
Pretty much more efficacious. A lot of people can't keep the pill down. When
Right.
Barbara Jenks tried it the one time, she threw it up in the hospital. Lord, it hits people so hard because it's only THC
Yep.
without the other beneficial cannabinoids that kind of balance things out. So we're talking about Dennis Perone, Brownie Mary, and their example in getting San Francisco to pass Proposition P. That led to a statewide petition drive in 1996, Proposition 215 in California. Thanks to Dennis Perone, Jack Herer, and lots of other big-time funders, and just people, citizens of California, that passed, and it was the first state to pass medical marijuana. And of course, we did in 2000, would have done it in 1998, but it was kicked off the ballot and put back on in 2000. Again, there were noted people in the AIDS community who spoke out on behalf of the initiative in our state as well.
Well, and I'm not sure that community gets the credit that they so deserve for pushing forward, what has become this monumental legislation in 18 states, and has been what's caused the legalization in Colorado and Washington State.
Exactly. I don't think that these people get the credit they deserve as well, and I'm happy to give them credit here tonight.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And Niles definitely plays a part in that, in terms of walking the walk. As Miguel talked about, he felt very compelled to volunteer for MMAPA and work with his sister and doing things like that, and got very engaged in the community because it was the right thing to do, and he wanted to do the right thing, and that's very appreciated. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and do a little bit of a wrap up. So if there's anybody else in the green room who wants to come in and say a few words about Niles, come on in while the inn is here and available. We'll be back in a few minutes. You're listening to iCannabis Radio.
Are you a runner? Are you a runner who supports marijuana legalization? Run on Grass is a group of athletes actively seeking to change our marijuana laws. We speak the truth about cannabis, bringing the message through our feet to new ears. Check out runongrass.com to find out more about us, our events, and how to join up or how to sponsor a runner. If you're in the Denver area, please join us for runs or start a group in your area. Running not your thing? Any sport can do it on grass. Runongrass.com. Let's face it, rules and regulations are complicated, especially in the field of medical marijuana. Let Medical Marijuana 101 help you get through the compliance process. We can also explain to you your employment requirements, your employees, and your business. But our work doesn't stop there. Our experience in cultivation ranges from the design of grow rooms to the diagnosis and resolution of grow problems. Visit us at www.medicalmarijuana101.com or call 303-388-7706. That's 303-388-7706.
Welcome back. I'm Georgia. Thanks for listening to iCannabis Radio tonight. It's a little hot in the studio. We just turned down the fan, so if you hear a little buzzing, it's not some bees or something. It's just because it's hot.
That's right.
Hot.
It's not me buzzing.
No, Greg's not buzzing. Greg's
All
not
right.
buzzing. So the folks in the green room are more than welcome to come in. I did want to talk about a couple things. So Niles had some things that he wanted to see happen after he was gone, and one of the things that was really important to him is he wants us to start, his family and all those that want to participate, the Frederico Foundation. And Frederico was a stuffed cat that his mom gave him when he was diagnosed in 2008, and it was something very special to Niles. It was a good friend for him for many years, and Frederico went everywhere with him and kept him company and acted as a confidant. And Niles really believes that it would be wonderful to put a stuffed animal in the hands of every sick person in the hospital, so that they have what he had and something that something very tangible that can stay with you. And so we are going to try to get that started up, and we'll give you more information as information becomes available about the Frederico Foundation. But I love the whole concept, the idea that something as small as a stuffed animal can be so meaningful to someone who is feeling pretty terrible. It's something that you can squeeze, or who can stay with you when you're feeling sick, or can be with you when you're feeling well, and you don't have to be a little kid to appreciate the benefits of a cuddly stuffed animal. So the Frederico Foundation will be started in Niles' honor. His family is also going to start a scholarship at his alma mater in Mississippi, and so again, we'll tell you more information as we find that out as well. I kind of want to balance our love and appreciation and memory of Niles, with his passing. I want to balance it out with the good that can be done right now. iCannabis Radio is very proud to be a sponsor and supporter of a fundraiser for a little girl named Lorelei. And there is a fundraiser on April 3rd in Colorado Springs it's at Classic 300 Bowling in Colorado Springs at 6 p.m. Little Lorelei, you can see the information on the screen right now. Sweet little Lorelei has brain cancer, very rare form of brain cancer, and her family could definitely benefit from some support, financial support in this fundraiser, which is sponsored by I Am Bill Smith, and as well as C4CPR are putting on this fun bowling fundraiser to raise money for Lorelei and her family. great for all ages. There'll be prizes for the kids. Come out and bowl. It'll be fantastic. Again, that's April 3rd at 6 p.m. at Classic 300 Bowling in Colorado Springs. That flyer is on our Facebook page, so please check it out. We can mourn Niles, but he would have nothing of it if we didn't also say there are things that we can do for medical marijuana patients who can use our support now, and that is what Lorelei is here for, is for us to remember that there are kids that are growing up who are benefiting from cannabis, and we need to support them. And Niles would have loved nothing more than for us to make sure that we give that family the love and the support that he has had for all these years. So please, if you can, Bowling for Lorelei. If you are interested you can't make the event but are interested in donating money, please contact one of the two organizations, I Am Bill Smith or C4CPR, and they'll be happy to take your money for sure. It's been an interesting week. I normally try to focus on some news around the state, and I tried to do that a little bit. I wanted to fill you guys in on Florida and those kinds of things. But sometimes I think about how lucky we are in Colorado. With all that our friend Niles has gone through. He was so lucky to be in this state where he didn't have to go through what the Jenks had to go through, and while go through a court case while you are feeling sick, and hopefully, we will move further and further away from prosecuting patients for using their medicine, and be smarter with how we approach our laws around cannabis.
Yeah, before we passed the legalization amendment, people got so hyped up about the notion that this might lead to cannabis tourism and things like that. Well, I really hope that we do continue to attract cannabis patient tourism. Not tourism, but cannabis refugees. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
To our state. Because we've put forth something that is very tangible, and it offers people relief. And a lot of states, again, try to criminalize and prosecute and really persecute people who are in a situation like Niles. So it was great that he could come to a state that already had a medical marijuana laws on the books.
Yep.
And again, he recognized the work that a lot of people had done on his behalf. Gosh, I remember around 1991 at the state capitol, we used to have hemp rallies. We would talk about cannabis for all its great uses, food, fiber, medicine, clothing. And there was a gentleman who got up. He had long hair, and he was wearing aviator sunglasses and beard and mustache. He was very, very thin. And his name was James Conner, and he was an artist. And he used medical marijuana, and he felt it was prolonging his life. And he spoke with such force and authority and conviction that we all felt compassion and wanted to increase our efforts. Ever since I first heard about Robert Randall's group, the gentleman who first got medical marijuana allowed, the Alliance for Cannabis Therapeutics, I contributed some money when I could, because I always felt that people who are in medical need should have cannabis first. There was no question at the time. I wanted a joint to smoke, to enjoy myself. But I always recognized my benefit. I could live without seeing it legalized for me if it could be legalized for somebody who is in dire straits medicinally. And it was great to see that we passed a law that allowed that. And again, James Conner speaking at the state capitol around 1991 was such an influence on me. We became good friends or strong acquaintances. I'd go over, I'd offer some caregiving when I could to James. But again, the spectrum, the ball field was completely different then, and I'm just so glad things have changed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Greg, so much for being on tonight, as always.
bet.
Appreciate it tremendously. You know, Niles, we miss you, and we love you, and you will forever be in our hearts and minds. And I know I personally feel like I'm a better person for having you in my life. We'll miss you tremendously. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. I want to thank our sponsors, of course, Mile High Wellness, Nodo Urban Garden Supply, Edson Maitland and Mats, Medical Marijuana of the Rockies, Cuffle Collmore and Company, Medical Marijuana 101 and Run on Grass. The rest of this week and next will be pretty exciting, as always. Tomorrow night, Sexpot Radio from 6 to 8. Thursday, the Hemp Connoisseur Magazine from 4 to 5. Next Monday, from 3 to 4 p.m. in the lab with Jennifer Murray from Can Labs. And, of course, we'll be back next Monday at 7 p.m. And thank you so much. We dedicate the show to Niles Puckett. Good night.
Sure, and all the AIDS patients who fought to help people like Niles. Can I just add one more?
Of course.
Peter McWilliams died of AIDS, big self-help author, sold millions of books, grew pot in his, I think, Bel Air house in California, 4,000 plants, arrested by the government, faced prison, wasn't allowed to use cannabis. And his good friend, Richard Cowan, said that he was killed by the government because they wouldn't allow him to use medical marijuana. And William F. Buckley, the conservative National Review founder, said that he died vomiting and in pain. And that's what even the Clinton Democratic administration put people through at one time. And again, 4,000 plants. At the time, I was shocked. That's crazy incredible. And now in Denver, 4,000 plants. That's one part of a warehouse over here. There's another 4,000 plants there. There's another 4,000 plants there. Another 4,000 plants there. Let's keep up the fight.
That's right. Good night.